This time, we're not talking about a grumpy customer. Instead, it was the restaurant's most likable customer, who also treated them as part of the family. As it turns out, the man who changed their lives in a second was also a famous art dealer. Not only was he filthy rich, but he was also kind. Donahue Steakhouse is a popular restaurant in Manhattan's Upper East Side. Like most restaurants in this district, they had a favorite patron. Whenever this generous man wasn't away on business trips, he loved to eat most of his meals in the steakhouse. The restaurant staff had grown an incredible amount of love for this man. He was never grumpy or picky and was open to having a cool conversation at any time. However, their favorite part about him was an incredible generosity towards every single one of them. Every time he dropped by, he'd make sure there were tips for everyone, including the busboys. Maureen Donahue Peters was the co-owner of the famous restaurant. She was also the head waitress of the restaurant. Just like everybody else, she loved to waitress for her favorite customer every time she had the chance. He brought joy and happiness to the place as soon as he walked through the doors. The entire room enlightened just with his presence. Donahue Peters and the generous man had known each other for many years. Over the years, they had developed a special relationship. She even got to the point where she considered him one of her dearest friends, and he did as well. The generous man enjoyed the company of the restaurant's workers, so whenever they were not busy, he would ask them to come join him. It was that kind of behavior that sets this man apart from the rest of the restaurant's customers. Often, he shared his meals with his business associates, yet some other times he dined with the homeless. For him, everybody was the same, and he was kind to everyone. It didn't matter who he was, he'd still treat them with the same respect and appreciation they deserved. Without any doubts, he was no ordinary man, as he knew how to appreciate the important things in life. The charitable man of this viral generosity story was no other than the famous art collector Robert King of the Ming Ellsworth. Despite having a net worth of $200 million, this man was known for having a humble life and always being generous to those who found themselves in need of his help. He was sympathetic to everybody surrounding him and always had a big smile on his face. With a cheerful and positive attitude, he had the power of turning a bad day around to make everybody happy. He was the type of person you would want to keep around. People who held him dear knew Ellsworth as Bob. He was a friendly man who had many close friends, which is not surprising at all given his kind nature. Despite his incredible success, Bob never believed he was better than anybody else. Instead, Bob saw himself just like any other regular person. He never acted cocky or belittled anybody, always preferring to see the beauty in people. Bob was well aware he was just a speck within the galaxy, so he decided as long as he lived, he would bring out the best in people rather than make them feel small or not worth it. Ellsworth had spent a great deal of his life collecting art and furniture pieces from the Ming Dynasty. One of the most famous pieces attributed to him is the Astor Chinese Garden Court in the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art. Because his main goal was to acquire every piece that would remind people of the golden era of the Ming Dynasty, people soon gave him the nickname the King of Ming. His love for art had required him to travel all over the world. Over the years, the King of Ming had been to the most beautiful places. However, none of those felt like home to him, only being at the Donahues. As soon as Ellsworth walked into the Donahue Steakhouse, everybody knew what he wanted. It was sort of an everyday routine, and he had never lost his appetite toward the steakhouse menu. For lunch, Ellsworth would have an open-faced grilled cheese with bacon. For dinner, he had broiled, prime chopped sirloin steak. Ellsworth liked to accompany his dish with smothered onions. He wasn't impatient and never complained about the food. From the staff to its menu, Ellsworth loved everything about the steakhouse. It was his favorite place to hang out, and he had some dear friends who would take great care of him, including one particular companion. When Ellsworth dropped by the restaurant, he was with his four-legged companion. It was a beautiful golden retriever who never left his side, not for a second. They shared every meal, and their bond was such a refreshing scene to watch. His dog was like any other customer. His dog was just as kind as he was. He also enjoyed the company of the waiters and loved the way they treated him. Everybody that dined with was treated as a dear friend. Ellsworth considered his dog one of his best friends, and you could see how much they loved each other. The King of Ming enjoyed treating people as his equal. Over the years, the restaurant staff had seen him dine with his driver just like he did with prominent people. Whenever he was by himself, he would call the restaurant's workers who were on a break to come and join him for supper. Ellsworth loved meeting new people and getting to know them. He liked entreating them with his stories about his travels and collections. The King of Ming did it with such an enthusiasm that everybody who was listening understood his passion for art. Not for a single moment did he sound like a wealthy businessman. The time came for Ellsworth to say goodbye at 85 years old. Unfortunately, the King of Ming passed away in 2014. Thousands of people from all over the world gathered in a beautiful service to pay their final respect for the generous man. He'd left his mark on so many people's lives, and they would remember him with great love. As for Maureen and the rest of the restaurant, workers were devastated when they first learned the terrible news. They were sorrowful of his passing and knew the steakhouse would never be the same without him around. In short, they lost a near, close friend. Back in the steakhouse, nothing was like it used to be. For the months that followed, the sadness and grieving stayed with everyone. Every time they thought of him, they couldn't help to miss him and wish he was walking through the doors once again. As a way to remember him, they often looked at the pictures within the restaurant. He would live forever inside their hearts. Bob would forever be remembered as a cool and loving guy. However, Bob didn't leave this earth without preparing a special gift for his dear friends. They would soon learn how much Bob cared about them. Almost a year after Bob had passed away, Maureen and her niece were reached by the legal representatives of their favorite customer. They were confused as they didn't know exactly what to expect when the legal representative called them. The restaurant's workers were stunned when they learned Bob had left a hefty sum of $50,000 for each of them. They had no words to express how grateful they were for Bob's final act of generosity. However, they said that they would have no second thoughts of trading the money in to have Ellsworth back into their world. Unfortunately, she knew that was impossible. Maureen and her niece decided to invest the $100,000 to expand Donahue's further. They also used a part of the money for the other people who were close to Bob. Maureen wanted everyone to know that even after he had passed away, he never forgot the people who made his life better. After the story went viral, lots of people reached out to them to attest what a wonderful man Robert L. Ellsworth was. He was a man full of compassion and kindness. It seems like he truly lived life to its fullest, and people will always remember his legacy. Buck, the veteran, and Bob, the art collector, have both shared compassion and kindness as their final acts. Upon leaving this world, they treated people with respect and love, and that reflects a happy and healthy life. With their final acts, both Bob and Buck let those closest to them know how much they appreciated what they'd done for them. While not everything is about money, Buck and Bob surely knew that the people they've chosen to include in their last will would use the funds wisely. Hopefully, they use that money to make the world a better place for themselves and their loved ones.